Good evening, everybody. Welcome from wherever you are watching in the world. It's Wednesday night. That can only mean one thing. Of course, it is round number 6 of the Flashpoint Racing League Tier 1. Great to have you guys along with me. Feel free, as always, to comment in the comments down below what you think is going to happen in this race. But a quick overview, of course, of what happened last time out in Hungary. And before that, of course, a very warm welcome from myself, Oxide Nova, here for the second week in a row. Absolute privilege to watch this league in action. 20 drivers this week, full lobby. Incredible to see. It's what we love to see in league racing, is to see one of the Alpines go out of the pits straight away. But a quick update, of course, on what happened last week, the championship standings and so on. So last week, in case you missed it, an incredible race strategy from NSX Cucumber in the Alpine, who I believe will be going out onto the track sooner rather than later. Now, with that said, that has thrown himself into championship contention with Limitless and of course with Selly as well. So quick overview, of course, on the championship standings going into this race. So after 5 rounds going into the halfway point of the season, NSX Selly leads with 91 points, followed up closely by TRL Limitless, who didn't really have the best race in Hungary, must be said. His qualifying set him up for what can only be said as to be a poor race from himself, but he collected the points that could be massive towards the end of the season. So with that said, he is in second place on 86 points. Now, with that said, again, NSX Cucumber with that fantastic win in the Alpine, thrown himself into championship contention with 78 points, and the man who's kept himself clean in the races, not won a race yet, but K. Gatkowski, 2 second places and a third place as well in the opening 5 races on 61 points. Those really are the main championship contenders as we go through into round 6 here at the magnificent Silverstone circuit. 18 corners, one of the most fearsome tracks in the game and of course in real life. And I think some of the drivers will absolutely love the fact that we are here this week, because this is one of the tracks that everybody loves, especially since it was redone for F1 23. So Cal, the first driver out onto the track, and let's follow you on board and see what he can do in the Haas. Of course, not the best race last week for him in the Haas. He didn't really get much from the race, and I think that's one of the Achilles heels of Carl himself. You know, he kind of has good starts, good qualifying, but doesn't really get the job done towards the end. But going through towards turn 1 now into Abbey, full throttle in these cars now, chucks it through, no need to worry about that one. Now into, of course, the village sections of the arena. Now, does he get a good line through? It looks like he does. And going now into the loop, nice and slow, keeps it in third gear, blitzes it out the corner. Of course, this little king here is full throttle, nothing to worry about there. Opens DRS, and then of course it's just a case of keeping it to the right hand side and then chucking it into the left hand that is coming up now. Chucks it in to the left hander, gets the apex right at the end, and then into left field. Keeps it nice and tight towards the inside. Some drivers do like to run it out wide in that corner to get a better exit, but not for Carl. So let's see what he can do now as we go through the old pit straight, of course, towards the old turn 1, which is Cop's corner. A fearsome corner, and of course flat out as well, going through in these cars. Nothing to worry about there. We go towards one of the most fearsome sections of the track in the world. Man, it's Beckett's Chapel. They come at you so quickly. Chucks it into the corners, doesn't miss any of the apex. It hits them brilliantly well. Chucks the power down, keeps it nice and tight on the circuit, opens that DRS. And he has decided to back out of that lap because, of course, he has invalidated, I believe, on the exit of Chapel there. So that's not what he's going to want to see. Let's see what we can do with the Ferraris now, because there's a Ferrari coming through. And I believe that is of GFO Spanias going through now. Yes, it is going through towards Stowe Corner. Called that because of the little village that is actually 10 miles away from it there. Into the club section now, of course, reprofiled in 2010 with the new pit building that was being built for 2011. So let's see what he can do. The first man to cross the line now. It's going to be a 1 minute 25.4 for him, but it is invalidated, so it's not going to count for him at the moment. As we see an Aston Martin go through, JR Lolo Vera gets pole position currently, of course, the only lap to go through so far. And the Alpine, of Mavros taking that from him by 0.2 of a second. Car's going to be throwing some time through now. Let's see what Limitless can do, of course, the man who is in championship contention as he goes through now towards Stowe Corner. Will he be able to get a good exit through there? Looks to me at the moment like he will be able to beat this time, but he has jumps into the pit lane, so he mustn't have had the lap that he wanted, and he's straight back into the pit lane. CPI Jamie with a 25.1 in the sister Red Bull. Of course, last week the 2 Red Bulls with a decent race, to be fair. Of course, Jamie coming in and helping out this week. So let's see what he can do. Is Gatkowski in P2 as well, 25.2. A man who really must have felt like he underperformed in Hungary. Didn't really get what he wanted from the race. So definitely keen to see what he can do this week. He's open dirt as well in the McLaren with P2 now, 25.2. These times are very close early on in the timing sheets. A lot of the drivers going back into the pit lane. We have an AlphaTauri, I believe, going through the final corner now. Let's see what they can do as they go across the line. And it's 24.8 of Selly, of course, one of the championship contenders, and of course getting that championship lead last week, and that is exactly what he wants. 24.8, great time from him so far. What about NLR Rudy going through Stowe corner now towards Club corner? What can he do in that Williams car? Chucks it in now. He's going to want to hope to get a good clean lap on the board, because NLR Rudy of course didn't have the best race last week. Let's see what he can do now. He's going to go to P9, a 25.6, slowest of the 9 runners so far, but I'm sure he'll like that as a banker time. But at the moment it's Selly in the AlphaTauri, the championship leader, who leads us through. What about NSX Cucumber? Where's he at the moment? Is he on a lap? I believe he is actually, down towards the bottom. CPI Volcano gets a 5-place grip. It was a collision with NSX Cucumber. What happened there then? We've missed off of the camera, but Cucumber's lap has been very much put under the cush there because he's had some contact. Let's make sure we get the fastest lap gaps on as well from the leaders. See what they are doing at the moment, but yeah, Cucumber didn't have the best time there because of that, so that's not going to be something that he's going to like to see. But I'm sure he's going to either go into the pit lane or start again. No, he does go into the pit. I believe he has, yes, he has front wing damage, so maybe Volcano didn't get out of the way there. Doesn't look like himself has got any damage at the moment, although with that said, of course, he is on an outlap, so presumably he would have been caught from behind. But yes, actually, he does have front wing damage too, so he's going to have to go into the pit lane. I wonder what happened between the two drivers there. Volcano, someone who, of course, set a really good lap in qualifying last time out and actually was fighting with the leaders for most of the race. So that's interesting to see from me. Of course, Jeffo Marios in the Ferrari as well. Great lap from him, only 2/10 behind. He's going to be heading into the pit lane as well. But at the moment, it's not looking like these drivers are really getting the cleanest of laps. Limitless, of course, the driver who kind of gave up the championship. It must be said, he just didn't have the race he wanted last week. He really had a bad qualifying, a bad race as well, but he collected those points as he saw his championship rival Selly and of course Cucumber as well setting the world alight in first and second place. So Limitless still in the pit lane, of course, after abandoning his first lap, but at the moment it is Selly, only 14 drivers who actually set time, but it is Selly who leads us on a 124.881, 2/10 clear of Marios in the Ferrari, and of course Igor in the Mercedes and P3 as well. Quite low-key put his, well, I should say silver arrow, but it's of course a black now card, put into P3, of course followed up by Jamie in the Red Bull, who comes out the pit lane now. So let's see what he can do, if he can get a better time in place. But at the moment, like I say, Selly, championship leader, is still leading this race and this qualifying session. Still in the pit lane now for the moment. Jamie, who's out for his second and first of the drivers, followed by Mad Ross as well in the Alpine. So let's see what they can do as we go around. Please get your comments in the description below. I see a few people putting comments in as well, of course, but will do my absolute best to read those out for you guys as well. I want to make sure that everybody has every single opinion known to the world here, and let's see, of course, what everyone else has to say and what everyone else thinks. Sportcast, brass trains, video games, amazing drivers, good luck all, great comms. I appreciate you saying that, I appreciate you watching on a Wednesday night. I'm sure you've got many things to do, but I appreciate you joining me here for Flashpoint on a Wednesday night for Tier 1, some of the fastest league races in all of sim racing here with us on a Wednesday night. Absolute privilege for myself to be watching them and commentating over them as well. Do you feel lonely sometimes in the commentary box? Must be said, so of course feel free to add more comments and I will gladly go through them and see who you guys think is going to win this race and of course get pole position as well. So, CPI Jamie, the man in the Red Bull, the man who's put in 4th place so far in qualifying. Let's see what he can do in his second run so far. Starts the lap now, going through towards Abbey, of course, turn 1, chucks it in, full throttle, nothing to worry about for him there. Got a bit of traffic up ahead, shouldn't be a problem. I believe it's the AlphaTauri of Selly 360, of course, championship leader, I think will, of course, jump out of the way, get out of the way, doesn't want any penalties himself. So, easily flat through here for Jamie. What time can he do going through the first sector? Will he be up on his time? Get some yellow flags up ahead for some cars that are going slowly. He is marginally up on his initial time in Sector 1, which is exactly what he'll want to see. Goes into left field now, a bit more of a tighter line for himself. Like I say, a lot of the drivers going for that tighter line on this game all round really is everybody is now either out on the track or on an outlaw. A bit of traffic he had to go through there. I don't think that would have caused him any issues, but as he goes through Cops Corner now, full throttle of course in these cars on this game, nothing to worry about there. But again, more traffic potentially up ahead. It doesn't seem to be bothering through Maggots, Beckett's and Chapel, but at the moment, like I say, he is up by 500ths of a second. He thought he was a rear possibly there, did Jamie. Let's see what that time goes through into Sector 2. No, he's 3/10 up, so this is looking really good for himself. This is potential pole position for Jamie in the Red Bull. So let's see as he chucks it in Stowe Corner now. He's going to keep all the time on the board as possible. Let's see what he can do. Goes through a few club corners now. A few corners to go now. Let's see what he can do. Clips the curb on the inside. Yes, slightly wide. Runs it wide now as well into the final corner. Turn 18. What can he do as he comes across the line? CPI Jamie in the Red Bull. Can he get it on pole position? Yes, he can. Great lap for himself. 700ths of a second ahead of Selly in the AlphaTauri. That's a lap time that he's going to want to see. Let's see if Selly can actually get anything out from that. With that said, of course, he's starting his lap now, but he's actually got a bit of traffic, it must be said as well, in the Alfa Romeo in front of him. Maybe he's going to want a bit of a slipstream from them, but at the moment, Selly in a bit of traffic, potentially not the best idea for himself. I'm sure we'll see what he does, but at the moment, CPI Jamie with that 24.8 already back onto pole position. Let's see what Limitless can do as he starts his lap as well in that Red Bull. Of course, the man who gave up his championship lead last time out, as Selly, as actually the second Ferrari, the sister Ferrari of GFO Spanias, goes into P3. The two Ferraris putting on a really good show so far this week. As of course last week they didn't have the best of show from themselves. It's great to see them back up there in the Scarlet Red Ferraris. Let's see if Marios can do anything. 2/10 up, of course, on his time at the moment going through Stowe. This could put him in contention for pole position as well. Carl goes P4 in that Haas. Great time for himself. But let's have a look at Marios now going through the final corner. What can he do? Will he invalidate time? Yes, he does. He invalidates time once again, and that's not what he's going to want to see. He was 2/10 up, lost all that time and invalidated as well. But going into the final run, he is definitely in contention to get a pole position here at Silverstone. But let's see what Selly can do as well at the moment. He's actually 1/10 down in his time, so he's not getting what he wanted from the car at the moment, and it looks to me like Jamie's got the upper hand. Is he going to go into the pit lane? Yes, he is, I believe. Yes, he does go into the pit lane, so he's not happy with that lap at all. Let's go now to the man in second place in the championship. Let's go to Limitless, see what he can do. 101.6 in the middle sector, purple, which is looking good for him, of course. It's one of his favourite tracks, I do believe, on the calendar. Chucks it into Stowe now. He's going to want to get back and bite back really from the terrible race he had in Hungary. So let's see what he can do. He goes into the final section of track now, chucks it into club corner, nice and tight to the curbs. He's got to keep it within track limits as he does now. A lot of time to spare there. He chucks it over the line. Can he get anywhere near pole position? And he doesn't quite get there, but 500ths of a second off. P3, great lap time for himself, and potentially with a final run to come from everybody here in the session, there's definitely time on the table for all the drivers. But at the moment, CPI Jamie and the sister Red Bull for Limitless on pole position. Volcano as well, must be said, missed that, went P2 in all that as well. So even though he does have a 5-place grid penalty as well, so all this is kind of surplus to requirements for himself in the Aston Martin. But at the moment, P2 for him, and he'll be really happy with that result if he can get that. Of course, it would be a P7 start, and it would be a 1-2 for the Red Bull pair. What about Igor in the Mercedes, of course? Was P3 after the first runs. What can he do going through this part of the lap now? It looks to me like he's backed off, actually. Yes, he has. Not looking to improve his lap time at the moment. Gatkowski as well, also backed off his time too. Cucumber, what can he do? He's still pushing. A man who, of course, won the race last week by a brilliant strategy, really starting on the hard tyres, keeping the guys up front and then putting the mediums on, and having a brilliant second overtaking move. Let's see what he can do in the Alpine. Of course, Alpine's thrown themselves into the Constructors' Championship fight as well now because of that win by Cucumber. He's still a second down though. He's not happy with this lap, and the man who looks on another planet really in the second stint last time out is now in P8 and really struggling in qualifying. So really interesting to see what he can do as the Mercedes and the Alpine almost get tangled with each other as they both go into the pit lane. But after the second set of runs from everybody there, it looks to me like Jamie does have the upper hand from Volcano and of course from Limitless. But there's still a lot of time to go here as well. Of course, Selly did kind of put himself in a bit of traffic, so that's not something he'll want to do again. I mean, Limitless as well in the pits. Only 3 minutes left on the timer, of course. That's not going to be a problem for him. He will have time, but he's going to want to have to get out of the pits as quickly as possible to make sure he can get that lap in. Someone who will be annoyed by that, of course, is Jamie as well. The drivers will get stuck with each other, but also as well, look at that. Kwiatkowski in P6, he's going to be held behind his teammate, and realistically they need to move quickly in that Mercedes garage, otherwise he's not going to have time to get out of the pits and put another lap on. So the person who's going to be setting the time first is JR Lolo Vera on his out lap now, but at the moment, like I say, look at that Mercedes in the pit lane. Not planning on moving anytime soon. As we see cars coming out of the pit lane, they're going to have to get a move on quickly, otherwise it's going to be a problem for himself. Potentially though, he should be fine, but look at this, all the cars coming out, line astern, Alpine, Ferrari, AlphaTauri, Ferrari. These drivers are gunning for pole position. They do not want to finish in second place. Look at the gap from first to fourth place on the grid so far, only 500ths of a second. Then of course, Selly, 700ths of a second, less than 800ths of a second separate first, second, third, fourth, fifth. Incredible to see here in Flashpoint. So let's see what the rest of the drivers can do. Selly, the man who realistically, he should have done better in that second one. He didn't really get the best time on the board and then got caught up in traffic. So let's see what he can do. And he lets the drivers go through. He wants to be one of the last men to cross the line, I think. Looking at it now, definitely a bit of games going on there, a bit of gamesmanship from all the drivers. Please let me know, guys, what you think in the comments down below. Who will end up on pole position? Cucumber comes out of the pit lane now as well. Should have more than enough time to get around the track, should I say. Kwiatkowski as well, he's out too. So no problems there in terms of getting out. Okay, first man to come across the line now will be JR Lolo there, of course, looking at that now in second gear, burning as much fuel as possible. Doesn't want to carry anything that he doesn't have to. The man who's in P14 at the moment, let's see if he can get any improvements, of course. After that, of course, it will be the Haas, I believe, of Carl. Yes, it is. So, of course, we'll stick with JR Lolo Vera first, but, of course, we'll then jump to that of Carl in the Haas, and we'll take it from there and see really what we can do, what we can find here in Silverstone. As the final run start now, JR Lolo Vera chucking it through towards Abicon and turn one. What can he achieve in that Aston Martin? Of course, a teammate of Volcano, who's up there in P2 at the moment, only 200ths of a second down on pole position. But for anyone who's just joining us right now, Volcano did actually get a 5-place grid penalty for making contact with NSX Cucumber in this qualifying session, something that we did miss, but that means he will start from best position, would be sick for himself if he does get pole position. But JR Oliveira chucks it into the end of the first sector, 100th of a second up. Let's see what he can do now. Let's ride on board really and just listen to the car and see what he can do. I'll shut up for a second. Let's go. Listen through Cops Corner. Flat out in the Formula car. Looking at that, JR Lolo Vera has to abandon his lap because he runs wide, of course, out Stowe Corner. Let's see what Carl can do. He's not abandoning his lap. He's got a good time on the board now. Should be able to get through the final corner, the final section, and get a good time through. Let's see what he can do now in that Haas, a man who qualifies well usually. Let's see if he chucks it across the line now. A bit of an improvement, and of course goes up to P6. Great time for himself. See one of the Ferraris coming through now. Let's see. No, he's invalidated his time Spanias again, so he's not going to be able to do better than that. What about this man? He looks like he's wide around the corner. No, he actually keeps it on the track. What can he do? Keeps it in P11. Not a great qualifying in the end for them. What about the rest of the drivers coming across the line now? The Alpine, of course, coming through now. Not the best time for him. What about the Alpines coming through now as well? NSX Cucumber. Oh, Selly gets pole position by 24.6. Only 100th of a second actually up on the time from everybody else. Great time for him. What about Cucumber? Looks like he's going to be up going through into Stowe Corner. The man who won the race last week. Can he actually do better than he did last week and get pole position? He was almost on pole position but didn't quite get it. Chucks it into the final section now. Comes around the final corner. Will it be anything that's close enough for pole position? Don't think it will be. No, it isn't, but it's good for P3. As Selly still on pole position. Volcano, can he get a good lap time through now as well? It's Limitless, only P5 in the Red Bull. He's not going to be happy with that. Volcano invalidates his lap time too, and by the looks of it, it looks to me like Selly will be on pole position at the British Grand Prix. Great time for himself to nick pole position away there. Should have been on board with him. My apologies there for everyone who is watching, but a great time from him. Nicks pole position by 100th of a second. Great time from Selly. As we look at the drivers now, and look at that, like I say, Volcano, he actually finishes P5 and gets that 5-place place grid penalty, so he's going to start P10. Is the Swedish driver in the Aston Martin. Not what he's going to want to see, but it's Selly on pole position, followed up by Jamie in the Red Bull, only just on 200ths of a second between them. Look at that, as Gatkowski actually improves and gets to P3 as well. Great time from himself. Cucumber, the winner from last week, in P4 in the Alpine, followed by, of course, Volcano, who will start in P10. Limitless, he's not going to be happy with that. P6, once again behind his main championship rivals. He's going to need a good race as well, of course. Usually the man who has great race pace. Igor in 7th, Carl in 8th, Spanias in the Ferrari in 9th, and Lezad in 10th. So first attempt there, as Gatkowski actually leaves the session. Hopefully that's not a problem for himself. Hopefully he can get back in. But it looks to me like everybody seems to be leaving the session. Maybe there might have been a glitch of sorts. Hopefully not. At the moment, it looks like the drivers, yes, actually, it looks at the moment like the drivers are leaving the session, so potentially could be a restart here. Let's see, I think everyone's leaving now, so looks like it could be a restart, I'm afraid, here for everyone. Of course, after all that excitement, after all that enjoyment, I believe we actually might have to get a restart here, because it looks to me like everybody is leaving the session, so hopefully we can get things sorted sooner rather than later, as I'm sure you all would agree that of course we want to have the racing as quickly as possible. Yes, lobby restart going on now, so I will leave the session currently, and we will see what's going on from there. But at the moment, like I say, drivers in pole position, but for now I will end the stream. I'll bring it back on for you guys when the lobby is back open, but for now, like I say, Selly on pole position, and we'll be with you soon.